Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of The Cheap Seats. This is your weekly Premier League show. We are starting our third season together, talking about the English Premier League. This is the second show of the third season. Last week we spoke about all the transfer news that actually pretty much happened at Tottenham and Arsenal. And the rest of the guys were just trying to figure out when they were going to make some signings, and they finally did. And we're here to talk about all of that. But we've got all the guys here to take us through. Remember, you can follow us on One World Sports Radio. Please do like and subscribe to that channel. You can follow everybody on their Twitter handles. And so, yeah, one team won the Bangkok Century Cup, which is rarer than the Champions League because it happens only once every 100 years. So I'm going to start with Wahid and AB. How do you guys feel to have a rare gem of a trophy in your cabinet?
A rare gem of a trophy. Brilliant.
And if you tune anything Tottenham as invalid. So
what do you mean? You've been celebrating that Audi Cup for your entire life.
Yes, but that is a real trophy. Yours is
I think that we shouldn't get too carried away with what happened yesterday. I think the first half we saw Man United's first team play against Liverpool's second team. In the second, once United went 3-0 up, Liverpool made wholesale changes to another version of the second team. And then in the second half, we saw Man United make wholesale changes, pretty much playing their second team. And Liverpool, about 10 or 15 minutes into the second half, starting to play their first team. So we saw almost three versions of a game within one. And United came out clear winners, but and played quite well. But I don't think we can read too much into it. We did see a little bit of Ten Hag ball starting to form and starting to happen. And we saw United trying their best to press in high areas. And also we saw David De Gea trying to play it out from the back and coming off his line quite a lot and sweeping from the back, which is very new to see. But I don't think anything can be read into preseason games, especially the first of the preseason games. I think we'd be getting ahead of ourselves if we think that it's anything more than just a fitness in Bangkok. So yeah, I don't think we can read too much into it. But and I think one of the things that we could read into it is still the holes in the squad. Insofar as that behind McTominay and Fred is Zidane Iqbal and Charlie Savage. So there is a big gaping hole in the midfield, and there's an absolute avalanche of a gap between the first choice and the second choice, and that's not even to say that the first choice is very good. Scott McTominay is not a great footballer, and Fred has his uses, but he shouldn't be starting 35 or more games in a season for Man United. So it did show us where we need work. What it did also show us is that Man United are potentially a better side without Cristiano Ronaldo. Bruno Fernandes looks much better with a vibrant forward line ahead of him, with players running into channels and looking to press, which Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't do. So yes, not drawing any conclusions, but it's starting to give us little hints and tidbits into what we may see come further on in the season.
Yeah, okay.
I want to jump in here.
What do you make of yesterday's game and Baldies? Okay.
Just that there's a song that goes "One night in Bangkok
Yes,
and the world's your oyster." And the thing is, I think we can definitely say United's oyster was definitely not made in one night in Bangkok. And I like Wahid's point about preseason friendlies. We have to very much bear in mind that whatever we see, especially in the first couple of them, is not going to be anything result specific. It's all about getting, running in the legs. And often, you'll have, as they call him, the preseason Messi, Ross Barkley showing up. There's no ways we're going to be seeing Ross Barkley, doing any of that madness in the regular season. So let's just have that as a caveat. Over to you, AB.
Thanks, Cyrus. I felt quite sad because it was the first preseason as United fans that we haven't had Andreas Pereira involved, and that hurts.
Banging in a worldie.
Jesus. So his compatriot Fred had to step up, and even Fred scored. So it just showed how bad Liverpool were and how unfit they were. Yeah, look, Man United are back, guys. This is. I think you're all wrong. I think we are seeing the start of something great. I'm going to get my heart torn apart. Classic United. I really loved seeing Alex Tellers at left back because that means that Harry Maguire wasn't in the team. Oh, not left back, left centre back. So yeah, I think United are stronger without Ronaldo, stronger without Maguire.
Maguire's
Yeah.
a captain, and he's going to stay that way. Ten Hag
That's
said
fine.
so.
That's fine. Gary Neville was club captain and he already played a few
The
matches.
10
That
Maguire
team.
commandments say that he must be the captain.
Please, let's not compare Harry Maguire to Gary Neville. Gary Neville is one of the best right backs the Premier League has ever seen, and Harry Maguire probably doesn't make our first team on a good day at the moment. So let's
But
not
Harry Maguire's achieved a lot of success. So I mean, let's just remember that, guys.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
One Europa League trophy.
Well,
No, he didn't. He wasn't there.
Is he still at Leicester?
okay, so let us go into the first topic. You guys have already started that, and that is whether Harry Maguire is the right choice. Over the weekend, we found out that Erik ten Hag is going to choose Harry Maguire as captain, and a lot of the Manchester United fans were a little bit angry about that. And then my question to you all was, or to the world was, what choice do they have? They don't want David De Gea. They can't have a Champions League Varane, and Bruno seems like the likely choice. But do you want to put that on your star player? And I want to go with you, AB. Are you happy that Harry is going to be wearing the captain's armband next season?
Not really. I personally would give it to Bruno. If Ronaldo was staying, I wouldn't mind seeing Ronaldo captain here and there. I think your captain needs to have a solidified role in the team, and right now there's big question marks of Maguire. I think Harry Maguire isn't right in a back four for United. I'm a big fan of United switching over to a back three with 2 additional wing backs. That would make Maguire a bit more stronger, more support. But again, Paul, like you said, we don't really have many options for captain material. We've got Maguire, De Gea. I think captaining a goalkeeper at United is a big risk. You can't really influence the game as much. Ronaldo, we know, is on the way out. And then Bruno's got a lot on his shoulders right now. He had a really tough second part of the season last season. And I feel like if we don't supply him with another attacking fluid player in that system, United may not see the best of Bruno Fernandes, like we saw in Ollie's second season, where we had Martial scoring 20 goals, Rashford scoring 20 goals, Greenwood scoring 15 plus goals that supported Bruno. So right now we don't really have many options as captain. We don't have that midfield engine, number 6, number 8 anymore, unless we sign someone. But are we going to? I don't think so.
You're not going to sign a captain.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, we could. I mean, we could sign a captain
Frankie
of
de Jong
like
captain.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Captain De Jong. I just want to hear what Wahid has to say, because he is rubbing that beard merrily.
I think that we need to differentiate between a bad player and bad form, and I don't think Harry Maguire is a bad player. He came to Man United and he did start off all right, and his second season at Man United was probably in our top 3 best players. I also don't think you're a mug if you end up in the team of the tournament at the Euros and get your team to the World Cup semi-final. Should have probably got to the final too. I don't think he's a bad player. I think that he's had a bad season. He's had a bit of a hangover from whatever happened to him in Greece. And I also think that he's got zero protection from the midfield ahead of him. So I think that with a few things changing, I do think that we'll see a different Harry Maguire. I don't think he's the best player in the world. I don't think he's a great player, but I do think he's a competent player. And I think that he can be fine in a Man United back 4 going forward. So I don't think he's the worst choice to be as captain. I also don't think that this many people, be it Ole, Ranić, now Ten Hag, or Gareth Southgate, even Brendan Rodgers, would trust him with leadership role if he was a complete numpty. So I don't think it's a bad choice, and we'll have to see how the season goes on. I don't think United will have a set back to to start with. I think Lisandro Martinez is going to come in as the left-footed centre-back, because I do know Ten Hag likes the left-footed centre-back, and that sort of solidifies maybe the left centre-back, and the right centre-back will be up for grabs between Varane, Lindelof, and Maguire. So I think as much as Harry Maguire might be club captain, I'm not sure he might be the on-field captain all the time. We did see that when Ashley Young was captain and Antonio Valencia. They were club captain, but not necessarily on-field captain all the time. Bruno Fernandes is the vice captain, and I think we might see him take on a bigger match day sort of captaincy role.
Well, I also want to say though, Wahid, that good thing then that you've signed that defensive midfield stopper to make sure Harry Maguire isn't exposed.
That's exactly what I want to say.
But the other point being, I totally agree with you. I don't think Maguire is the absolute worst, but sometimes you have situations where certain players get utilized by managers a lot because they don't really have the resources to spend to bring somebody else world class in. And I wouldn't cut bait on Harry Maguire just yet. I think that as far as captaincy options at United go, you've said all the things. Who would you turn to? There really isn't anybody who could potentially be that guy who has, is the loudest voice. And I think that on occasion that might be the biggest problem with Harry Maguire, that he feels he needs to be the big man on campus rather than just focusing on his job, which is defend, play the game, and stop worrying about passion.
Oh, and pause on
mute.
If I'm not on mute. Yes, I was. So if I'm not on mute. So this one's a very interesting one, because let's look at what United still need before we move on to the big news of the other big news of the week, and that is the signings that Chelsea have made, because they've moved. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happened at Spurs when Conte's making people puke on the side of the field. But Wahid, outside of the defensive midfielder and everyone looking for Lissandra and Frankie de Jong, are there any other places that you think United need to strengthen? And especially with the return of Martial and possibly Cristiano going, don't you need a number 9 to come in and fit in? No, you're comfortable with having a front three that played yesterday, pretty much.
No, I do think we'll need a body in there, because it's not just Ronaldo. We've kind of lost Ronaldo, Greenwood, and Cavani all at the same time, which kind of left a gaping hole at the top of the field. And if you listened to the manager's pre-match conference, he did. When they asked him which areas he'd like to strengthen, he didn't mention defense. He actually mentioned midfield and attack. So yes, I think the attack will need bolstering. I think that we will see Rashford, Martial, and Sancho probably start the season as the front three, with Bruno just behind them pulling the strings. Which I think is a little bit better than last season when we had Ronaldo, because with Ronaldo up front, what effectively happened is we were playing a 4-2-4. But with the players, with the players like Rashford, Sancho, Martial up front, we might get a little bit more buy-in to pressing from the front and dropping back and defending as a unit when we need to, especially with Ten Hag in charge. But having said that, I think we do need someone. There has been links to Anthony coming in. But apparently way too expensive for Man United to afford. Ajax kind of pricing him out of a move. And as of yesterday, United are starting to be linked with some Polish 6'7" striker from Stuttgart, who is apparently quite good, but I don't know anything about him. So yeah, there are links in the media to different sort of forwards, and I do think that we will sign a forward before the start of the season. I don't think you can rely on just the three that we chatted about, with Anthony Elanga covering them and maybe Ahmad and Pellistri covering them. The drop between those three and then Elanga, Pellistri, and Ahmad is way too big. It's the same situation we talked about in the midfield, where the difference between Charlie Savage and Zidane Iqbal is way too big between with Scott McTominay and Fred. So I do think we'll see a body come in as a forward at some point before the start of the season.
Okay. So now let's move on to the next topic of our season, and I'm going to go to Cyrus on this one. Cyrus, Chelsea bought Raheem Sterling from Manchester City, and now we're back to buying players from rivals. So the question for me to you is, are you getting Raheem Sterling still in his prime or behind or after has his prime gone?
This is a really interesting question because, as it's been well documented from my fantasy football struggles with Raheem Sterling, he is as wasteful gets. However, prime is a really interesting thing because he's 27 years old. If this isn't his actual football prime, I don't know what is. And I think the thing about Sterling, I've started to come around to the signing in the sense that I started looking at it and saying, okay, hang on. Is Raheem Sterling going to be worse than Timo Werner? And the reality is probably not. And he'll play off the left generally, which is where Werner plays from, and might miss as many opportunities as Werner, but he has had lots of goal contributions from assisting to scoring from that left channel for a team that has actually produced a heck of a lot over the years in Man City. And he did well at Liverpool before that too. So I don't expect that there's going to be a significant drop-off in his productivity. And if anything, because we don't play Pep ball, he's going to play a heck of a lot more regularly, I think. So I'm actually starting to warm up to the signing. I think that he could be a really good signing for Chelsea. But the question then is, what is Chelsea's expectation of him? Because we can't expect that he's going to be Lukaku and just banging goals in. It's not going to happen. But if he is effective in getting other players involved, because his assist numbers are pretty high, then I'm all for it. And he can play off either flank. What's also nice, and this will be the last thing for me, is that Sterling is rapid. And that allows some of the other guys who are really quick wingers to also attack. Often Chelsea had a case where they'd play one quick winger and, let's say, Callum Hudson-Odoi or maybe even Timo Werner off the left and have to play a Hakim Ziyech or goodness, how am I going to forget the tall German Champions League winner?
Kai Havertz.
Kai Havertz on the right. And you're not getting the same level of pace. Now you've got Sterling and Hudson-Odoi potentially, or Pulisic, really bombing down those flanks. And I think, with that kind of pace, you'll cause a lot of problems. So I'm really happy to see what happens around that. And I think Sterling would be a good signing.
Do you still need a number 9, Cyrus?
Yes, but I don't know if we need one quite the level that we were chasing before. So, for instance, Lukaku was obviously in that sort of upper tiers in terms of how we viewed him and how he was viewed monetarily. But when you look at some of the guys, I mean, like maybe Broja, if he sticks around, might be somebody that they utilize. Perhaps, and this is what I think might happen more, is we'll see Kai Havertz as a false 9 more often, and we might see Timo then being used down the center. Dare I say, the most incredible thing that might happen as well is the fact that Michy Batshuayi has come back from loan. No, it's not going to happen.
Ways.
Not going to happen. Yeah. Definitely. Look, I've got no hard feelings against Michy Batshuayi, but I just think that I'd love to see another sort of goal poacher there, but it seems as if Tuchel is probably more inclined.
I heard he's available.
Yeah, we've never signed him before. But
Chelsea need to focus on defenders, though, Cyrus. To jump on that.
No, that's obviously where things go. I think what Tuchel wanted was to get this.
Let's actually talk. Let's actually ask you a question quickly before we go on the strike thing. Cristiano Ronaldo, would you take him or not?
No.
Because it seems like the owner wants him, and it seems like the club want him. Man United don't want to let him go to a rival, but he seems to be wanting the Chelsea move more than all other moves.
He wants to play in the Champions League. London's not a bad city. And Tuchel is the one who's really against it. And for the same reasons that you guys have had problems with Ronaldo at United. It's not as if he's bad, but he changes the way you play as a team. And I think that might be one of the more important factors. I think that Ronaldo could actually be quite successful at Chelsea because he wouldn't be asked to play with his back to goal. But I just don't see why you'd spend all of that, not like it would be a ton of money, but on an aging guy who can perform quite well, but isn't necessarily about the future of your team going forward. That's primarily my view anyway.
as I said, Ronaldo had a good season, but held the team back. You can believe those two at the same time, and I think that you'd see similar at Chelsea. He would be able to perform well. He'd be able to score goals, but I'm not sure he'd fit well in. So the other question then goes that you've now signed Sterling to come into a team whose attack seems more comfortable with a 3-man defense, but whose defense seems more comfortable with a 4-man defense. For example, Reece James doesn't like playing as part of a back three, and as a wing back. He likes playing as a fullback in a back four. So where does Raheem Sterling fit into this Chelsea side that doesn't quite know whether it likes playing with a back three or back four?
I think Sterling will always be a left-sided attacker primarily, in whichever system we use. So if we're playing 3 up front, or even, dare I say, 2 up front with a midfielder behind, or a false 9, or whatever you might want to look at, he's probably going to still do a lot of his work off that left-hand side. And that seems to be what Tuchel has actually said to him. He sees him cutting in, playing a bit like Ribéry or Robin, that sort of inverted winger, and then being able to attack the goal. Because the key thing for Sterling has been, we're not looking for him to get round the back and start supplying crosses. We're looking at him coming off that flank and really attacking the defense, which he's really good at. And if there's one thing Timo Werner is shocking at, is he's not a dribbler. So Timo Werner will get the ball, try and run with it, and try and beat the man with pace, as opposed to Sterling, who's really good in close quarters. So that's what I think Tuchel is looking at, is somebody who can create a little bit of a moment and actually attack the defense at pace. So that's how I see it. But I do kind of disagree a little bit around where Reece James fits, because yes, he is primarily a right fullback, though he can play as a wing back quite well and quite effectively. I'd hate to see him as a third centre back. That's never where I want to see him, because it negates all of the reasons why you have him there in the first place.
Yeah, I just think he's a much better fullback than wing back, like much better.
Well, he's a phenomenal right-sided attacking defender. And when you look at that, I mean, I guess we'll talk about it now, but Chelsea rather targeting some of the defensive targets that they have in recent weeks, like a Koulibaly, Nathan Ake, they're not the fastest guys. So when you're letting Reece James as a fullback run up and down that flank, what Rudiger always gave you was cover, because he was really quick to be able to cover that ground in order to get back to make up for those things. So I think it's important for Chelsea to really sort out that defensive stuff. And there's another aspect to it that we haven't dealt with yet, which is returning youngsters and loan players. And that's where I think Chelsea are trying to make some hay, because there's a kid that we have called Levi Colwill, who I'm sure you might have heard of. He was in the championship playoff final for Huddersfield. He had a great season with them. I think he was also voted their player of the season. And much like Reece James did when he was at Wigan, people have got their eyes on this kid. So from the Chelsea insider perspective, a lot of people are thinking Colwill might be one of the defensive solutions that they don't utilize as much throughout the season, but will be there to provide cover. And we're not even talking about some of the other midfield stuff, but we'll get into that just now.
Cool. Thanks, guys. The next one we want to talk about is what teams still need in this window to kind of solidify where they're going. City, obviously, they're doing small little signings. Marco Correa, they're looking to try and get him. They've gotten Calvin Phillips. They've gotten Erling Haaland. I don't think they need much. They're the ones who are being hunted. Liverpool, on the other hand, we'll talk about that when Jean-Emile comes in, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about Liverpool. We'll talk about that once we have him probably closer to the time. But, Cyrus, you got Koulibaly. You've gotten Raheem Sterling. Any other things that you need, any other players that you need to cover in this window? I think you need another centre-back because you got one. You probably need the other one on the outside.
So the Koulibaly signing, if it does happen, and it seems to be the one that's gathered a lot of pace, will do a lot of things. I think that Koulibaly should have been the kind of player we signed 3 seasons ago, But here we are. The 31-year-old Kalidou Koulibaly will probably be a Chelsea player. Now, one of the great things that I like about the signing is that often when you sign players from a different league and they have them come to the Premier League, there's going to be an adjustment period, and that's obvious.
Also known as the tax.
Exactly. There's that.
The famous tax from Wahid, the Bundesliga, Eredivisie, and Farmers League tax.
But Koulibaly is a compatriot of the goalkeeper Mendy, and so you don't have this problem from a communication perspective. Because when David De Gea, for instance, joined United, one of the biggest problems in his first season was not being able to communicate with Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic.
Still doesn't communicate much.
But the understanding is a bit better.
Doesn't say a word.
The understanding is still a bit better, in the sense that. But you remember, Ferdinand and them used to always try and cover for him because he never said anything, and it cost them a lot of goals. Whereas Koulibaly is going to be in the ear of Mendy and rather vice versa the entire time. So I like that signing because it also gives us a little bit of height at centre back. But then it's the Nathan Ake. And I think there's another aspect to that. Look, I've got no problem with Nathan Ake. I think we have to accept who he is. He's basically the Dutch.
That's what he is.
He's the Dutch Davies, who you guys have, or Rodon.
Fact.
He's like solid Belarus all over again.
No, let's not go there. But I will say this about Nathan Ake. He is a former Chelsea youngster. And I think that one of the reasons they're looking at signing him very specifically is, A, he doesn't have to find his way around the club, as a first-time player. But
he
B,
knows where the
because
bathrooms are, Cyrus.
How big is this club that you need orientation?
But have you seen the nightclub under the stadium? Let me tell you, it's a massive club, possibly gargantuan. But the other thing is about the what do they call them? Not a trained player, but he's because
homegrown.
So he's a bit of a homegrowner as well, and I think that really helps when they're going to then try and sign a few of these other international players. So I think the Ake signing covers that side of it too. Considering we're going to have 5 substitutes next year, this season. Ake is going to get games. He'll probably play more than we'd expect him to, and he should be better than Malang Sarr. So, all things considered,
doesn't take much.
Sarr had his moments, but this is to answer the question: what do Chelsea need? Firstly, centre backs, yes. Then they need to decide what has to happen with Marcus Alonso and Captain Cesar Azpilicueta, because
I say package them and get Frankie de Jong.
Good call, but I'd rather not have Frankie de Jong sulking at Chelsea. I'd rather have him sulking at United.
Okay, Cyrus. Moving on to the other Champions League side.
Wait, Cyrus, so which parts of your team don't need doctoring? So you're saying defense, you're saying forward. Do you need doctoring in midfield?
So look, Wahid,
guys, they've got a great.
The goalkeeper, we're going to sell one. We need 2 new defenders. And potentially some fullbacks. The midfield is generally also in flux because yes, we've got Conor Gallagher coming back, and that's great. Billy Gilmore might stick around and play some games, but what do we do with Jorginho? He might stay, he might go. He's got 1 year left in his contract. Chances are I'd cash in on him. Kovacic is still there. Kante is getting older by the minute.
Don't you still have Bakayoko on the books?
Yes, we're hoping to try and cash in with some of these guys. Yes, but
I thought you sold him to Milan.
No. These clubs are really smart. They know that they don't have to buy anyone.
Bakayoko's like a toe fungus. Try and get rid of him, bro. You just can't do it.
He's the Anthony Martial of our club. You think he's gone, and then he's still around. Look, it'll be the same with Ndombele.
Fact.
Some guys you just struggle to get rid of them because you pay too much. Pepe will be the same for Arsenal. You've paid too much.
It's not necessarily the wages that they're on, and clubs just won't take on those wages for a player like that.
Yeah.
Is Kepa still at Chelsea?
Yes, and he's probably got an angle for a move. So that's what I'm saying. There is so much happening, and the one thing, and Wahid has hinted on this before. It feels like the Cyrus podcast. I promise I'll just keep quiet. But the Todd Bowley era is a really interesting one because you see a few things happening. The first one is Chelsea are now being bullied by other clubs around signings. You didn't necessarily have that so much in the Roman Abramovich era because he had tons of money, and also Mourinho was a heck of a negotiator. The other thing about it is that Chelsea cannot pay over the odds for players and salaries. They've got to balance the books. So this stacking players and, even the way the rules have changed around loan players and all of that stuff, we have to see exits happening soon. And so I think that we're going to see a sea change of stuff. And that's why I think Chelsea won't have a great season next season. I think they'll have a good one, but it will also be in part of building towards something else because they have to find some real star talent to take them to the next level. I don't know if we've got any superstars that will elevate this team.
Well, you don't want Cristiano Ronaldo, so
no.
That's another story. Moving to another team that's playing Champions League, Dean. You and Spurs, Conte had your players puking on the side of the field in Seoul. I checked earlier on Lars Veldwijk, the South African international striker, scored against you. I don't know who he was playing against because I don't watch preseason football. But what else do you need to strengthen that side and make sure that you don't have a Spursy finish, but a triumphant one?
I'll keep it short. Not a heck of a lot. Spurs have done a lot. Spurs have done a lot. We've done a lot of early transfers, which we've discussed in the last show. But there's still a few positions that I am a little bit wary on. One of them being the right wing back. So at the moment, we've got Doherty and Emerson. Emerson is trying everything he can to try and show that he can be the first, the starter in Conte's team. I don't think Conte trusts him that much. He works more in a back four than a back, or as a wing back in a back three. So I think Spurs are after Jed Spence. I think I mentioned it in the previous show as well. He's the 21-year-old from
looks really good.
And he's really good. And I mean, it's been a story of we close and then we're going to agree a fee and then we almost close and it's almost like a Frankie de Jong deal. So I hope that one gets over the line.
Or Spurs attempts at winning a trophy.
Yeah. But I think
aren't you playing the World Cup soon?
Yeah, we are. So we're going to win another one, don't worry. So for me, the side that I'm worried about is left centre back. At the moment, we got Ben Davies, who Conte's turned him into Maldini, but it's not enough.
But you have Longley.
Yeah, so we've got Longley. We got Longley now. So, and I've watched enough YouTube compilations, same as Wahid, to know that the guy can play. So
he's a good player.
He's in a back three. I think Conte can utilize him. His ball distribution is what I think a lot of guys are saying Conte is looking for, and he could operate. And the big thing for me is all of these signings I feel comfortable with because if Conte wants you, I'm fine with it. And that's the way I feel. It's a really good place to be in as any fan. If you trust your coach, you don't really care who he gets because if he wants him, I back the coach more than I back whether I know a lot about the transfer or not. So I do think that left-sided centre-back is a role which Longley could cover, but I think someone like Pau Torres from Villarreal would be a really good signing there, and we could probably do a deal with Lo Celso going the other way. But more to the midfield, I think we've got Basuma, we've got Bentancur, Oliver Skip, and Højbjerg. But for me, still lacking that creative Eriksen role. I've been saying it for a long time, and Conte obviously knows what he's doing, and if he wants someone, he'll go and get it. And I saw reports today saying that Spurs are still expected to make 2 or 3 more signings, of which I think right wing back being Jed Spence and another cover of left-sided centre back would probably be one. The big thing for me is that creative midfield, and I think Eriksen would have been good for me, although him coming back, it raises a little bit more eyebrows. But I do think there will be another push for someone. Ndombele could fill that role, but he's lazy, so he must go.
Wow.
Lo Celso was supposed to be that person. He must go. Winks is, like I've said before, Everton, Leicester level, so he must go. And then the other side on the left wing back. Hey?
You're sounding more like Wahid right now than anybody else.
But for me, like we've done a lot of business of incomings. For me now, I want to see the guys that have been just dragging their weight and just not doing. They must leave the club now. It brings the rest of the squad down. And if the squad is all about getting fresh blood, changing them, like you see Conte making the Oaks run. I think it was close on 5,000 meters after a training session, and you're seeing Kane and Son vomit on the side of the field. You're not going to have that bang average players there. Listen, but
he's not a fan of hard work.
I saw United try to do a rondo training session. I didn't know where the soccer ball was, so it was tough. But anyway, I'll wrap it up.
5,000 meters, bro.
5K run.
And you can't run 5K after an intense session. So,
I could do it right now. I ran a 15K this morning. Come on, man.
But you're not going to do it. Anyway,
Look, I can't.
With the heat and all the training, I'm with Dean. I'd throw up too.
Anyway, long story short, I think left wing back, Reguilon's going. We're sorting out the midfield. We need a creative guy. Jed Spence on the right is a really good signing for me. Emerson, I'm touch and go. He must leave. And then just finally, up front today, we saw Kane, Son, and Richarlison play in a front three in the second half of our preseason game, which doesn't mean a lot, but Conte came out after the game and said it's good to see Richarlison can play in any of those front three positions. So exactly what we predicted. I think he's going to be covered for any of those three and could probably maybe take Kulusevski's spot if he starts really delivering and pushing through. So it'll be interesting to see, but more like ultimately, I just want to see.
Here's the thing: Kulusevski did play number 10 quite a bit at Juventus. I know he's basically played a lot on the right, but I do know he can play number 10. So is the idea maybe that if you don't get someone in the Eriksen mold to maybe start using Kulusevski infield a little bit more than rather as an out-and-out winger? Or do you need to go buy?
I'm also just getting here because I get you, Wahid, and I know that's exactly it. I feel Richarlison is going to be that guy. That they're going to try and drop Richarlison back a little bit to see what he can do. And they might rotate that position between Richarlison and Son because Son plays quite deep.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Kane could drop deep and he just has Kulusevski's Son and Richarlison running in front of him and he just sprays those balls wherever he wants. So ultimately, we've got four really good players up front, and they can all kind of play in each other's positions, which is exactly the kind of position you want to be in a club.
And they all work hard, so it's not like you're going to be stuck with four up front.
Also, Levy doesn't go drop 60 million pounds on a player that's going to just be okay with sitting around on the bench. He's
Ndombele.
He's gonna come out and hopefully he's gonna fire. So I mean, I just want the season to start. I'm so excited. I'm probably counting chickens before we hatch, but like the more I think about
it's not like a Spurs fan to do that.
We're gonna push for something good this season, and I just wanted to start. That's where I'm
backing Spurs.
The stock count Dean comes out, and he's there counting chickens in the field every year.
I'm there.
Dean, do you need someone like James Maddison or someone along those lines who could? You mentioned Christian Eriksen, who's now going to come to Man United, but would someone like James Maddison fill that role that you'd like from Christian Eriksen, or is there someone else you have in mind from maybe overseas? Who
Maddison,
you think where the links are? There any links to players like that?
Just a quick one before Dean. Yeah. On our WhatsApp group, Yuri Tielemans' house is for sale.
Yeah, but that's Arsenal fans looking for any good.
Well, I'm just saying. Spurs can hijack that. Spurs can hijack that.
Yuri Tielemans, I'm pretty certain, is Man United's plan B for Frankie de Jong. I'm pretty certain.
You see, Dean?
But, okay, to answer the question, I think Maddison is the name that's been thrown around a lot at the moment on Spurs Twitter, but at the same time, there's someone
like £80 million.
Yeah. 80, like Leon, there's some midfielder from Leon that's also being thrown around. I don't trust Leon players. That's when Dombele comes. That club is terrible. It must go to burn.
Mm-hmm.
So
isn't that the guy Arsenal almost signed like 2 years ago?
Yeah, Hassan Mawar or whatever.
Paul was. Oh, do you not remember Cheap Seats from like 2 years ago?
Yes, I'm still there. I still want him.
That's a signing that we should have made 2 years ago. And that's why also we need a signing going forward.
It reminds me of Nabil Fekir. It's like a flavor of the month signing. It's not a signing that's like that like many clubs are after. It's like a flavor of the month thing, and then you don't hear about them again. Like Johan Gurkov back in the day. Like everybody was like a flavor of the month thing.
Another flavor of the month is a kid named Florian Wirtz, German player. I think he plays for Bremen or Stuttgart. Or he's like 21. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, so was Gurkov. So was what's his name? They're good in their leagues.
Didn't Nabil Fekir sign for Liverpool, but like it fell through at the last minute? He actually like signed the contract and all.
I remember that. He's at Real Betis at the moment. So
flavor of the month. Yes. He went to Real Betis because his Liverpool thing fell apart. But I mean, if he was like that good a player, he'd be looking at a different club, not Real Betis.
But the thing, Wahid, in all of this is world football has changed, and sometimes you go from being, like you say, flavor of the month to suddenly you're at Betis, and everyone's like, "Are you the new Joaquin?" France can be a weird place because you will be absolutely bossing it there, and everybody's like, "Oh, big fish, small pond," that sort of thing. But Eden Hazard was also seen that way, a flavor of the month type player. Had all these skills, could he really do it in the big leagues, and came to England and showed that he could. Yes, he's not Nicola Pepe, who's just sensational, but the thing about
Shinji Kagawa.
Yeah.
Oh man, guys.
Yeah. This the
flavor of the month, Shinji Kagawa, Karol Poborski as well.
Yeah, the French league can make you look like a superstar, but so it is really important to keep your cards close to your chest. We've all been burnt by these guys.
Yep, Karol Poborski. Karol Poborski is the reason I say you don't sign a player on the back of one good tournament.
Yeah.
James Rodriguez.
Okay. But it was like the same as last year. Wasn't there that Dams guard that played for Sampdoria? Right. Remember? Dams scored. He played for he plays for Sampdoria. Yeah. Everyone was after him. One good year and now Denmark. Sorry.
Don't even remember.
You were linked to him, don't worry. It's like on the list of 100. It never came.
Okay, guys. I'm still here. Okay. So from the Arsenal perspective, because we're just going down the line from the log. The guys I want in, I need another left-sided. I need a left back, left-sided centre mid. You want that midfield access to kind of have a buffer for Partey getting injured, for Xhaka getting red cards. Because if El Neni's the first name on your bench, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. I'm hearing Paqueta, he's too expensive. I'd go and get Houssem Aouar as a bench because effectively looking for a bench option. Fabio Vieira is a more attacking midfielder. So it's one of those situations. But I need a left back. I need someone who can play at left back that's not Granit Xhaka.
Alex Telles is available.
Hijack Lisandro Martinez.
Alex Telles is available. And he can play at left centre back.
Remember, we already have that Portuguese kid who really did struggle.
They can speak the same language. It's fine.
No. Yes. So look, I think they've done well in the window so far. Matt Turner is an okay-ish goalkeeper for a number 2. Thank goodness that we can let the Icelandic model go. If we find him a place, we need to find a place to let Pepe go. I think it might be a similar situation with Marseille, where we send Pepe there and say, if he plays 10 games, you pay us 5 million and walk. Just like how we let go of the French international Matteo Guendouzi, just like that. I saw pictures today of William Saliba coming back. That's like a new signing, so I'm excited. Really, really excited for that. He's wearing the number 2 jersey, so that means He's in the rotation, everybody. He's in the rotation. And yeah, look, I'm happy for the front line. We saw a glimpse of it. So, guys, if you watched that game against Nuremberg, first half, you would have been like, oh, Lord, Mikel's getting fired at the end of this game. But they turned it around. Those 5 goals, Gabriel scored really, really well. But yeah, look, I think from an Arsenal perspective, it's at midfield. You need to find a lot of options across that midfield. You also need to find a way to send Pepe out. You also possibly, if you can find value for Granit Xhaka, probably. But I do think you'll have to wait until the World Cup, because if he has a monster November and December at the World Cup, you can sell him in January to some person. Lucas Torreira is probably also out. But yeah, that's Arsenal in a nutshell. And then so I'm going to go to AB to ask him, who do you want out at Manchester United? And it can't be David De Gea. Please, you need a goalkeeper. And
who do I want?
He's good.
Who do I want out?
Yeah.
Yes, out.
I want Phil Jones out. I want Eric Bailly out. I want.
Just play yesterday.
Yeah, but I still want him out. Wan-Bissaka, I want out, but he's not going to get replaced, so he can stay. And then I think Cristiano Ronaldo going out would improve our financial situation, improve our style of play. But those guys right now are some of the deadwood holding up the club. Is Bailly and Jones. The midfield has been weakened with emptied, I should say, with Matic, Pogba, Mata gone, Pereira gone, so that helps a lot. We don't know what's happening with Mason Greenwood. I don't think we'll know for a long time. We need to desperately get another forward in. We need to desperately get a defensive midfielder in, which I don't think we will. So I think Lisandro Martinez is a really important signing for us.
I think
because
Lisandro Martinez plays centre back. I don't think he's coming in as a defensive midfielder.
But that's fine. But like, at least we know if shit hits the fan, he can play there. Because right now we have no one who can play.
I think it's already on the fan.
Yeah, well,
I think it's already
there.
But
there's no electricity, so it's fine. Okay, there's no electricity. The fan isn't working. Yeah, look, I'm really, really worried as a United fan. I think we're going to see a building sort of season. I think Ten Hag is going to be improving the players we have more than putting his Conte stamp on it, like we've seen. I don't think we can see this to be Erik Ten Hag's team just yet, because we are far from what he wants. As he said in his press conference yesterday, he saw a lot of mistakes. He wants to change the way we play. There's a lot of work to be done. And if you watch that game, you saw there were flashes of good play, and then 90% of the time United were nowhere. So right now it's just about building fitness, getting some confidence, getting to make these players believe that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a 45 million rand fullback. He needs to believe that. If he can believe that, then maybe he can start.
He's definitely worth that in rand. As I don't know about in pounds.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, yes, guys.
Is it like 2.5 million pounds?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Axel Tuanzebe. I want him out as well. Axel Tuanzebe. He's doing that. Yeah, well, he never played. He's another preseason wonder. He's in
the Ross Barkley of Man United.
Jeez.
I mean, but look, AB, you know what's interesting? I mean, I think a lot of us will look at our clubs and think there's a lot of dead wood we have to get rid of. And the biggest issue is who's going to take all of this wood? There isn't a bonfire big enough for the dead wood that we all have to get rid of. What I do wonder about, and Wahid, you can also jump in here, is do United have enough game breakers? Because I don't know if, when the going gets tough, if Bruno Fernandes is enough, because he seems to be able to handle the pressure when it comes to it. And if not, who do you think could be brought in to really change a game?
No,
Well,
I don't think we do.
And I think one of the issues is that Man United, I'm not as worried about AB, because I do think we'll be better, and I think that a lot of issues stem from bad coaching for a while. Whatever we think of Ole, my thoughts are well documented. I'm not sure these players have been coached very well, and I think that Man United have gone and corrected that with someone who's going to coach them really well. So I'm not overly worried. I do think there are holes in the squad that do need addressing. But in terms of game breakers, one of my worries, and it is this is somewhere where it comes in, is that when we look at 5 subs, I don't think Man United will have enough firepower on the bench to come and change a game. Like we don't really have a bomb squad, and I think that some like a team like Spurs are building a bomb squad on the bench.
Yeah.
So far as that they have enough firepower on the bench to come and change the game, and I don't think Man United have that. And we'll have to see how we go, because as it stands, players like Pellistri and Ahmed are going to be on the bench at the start of the season, and I'm not sure those players are good enough to change games in a Premier League environment. So yeah, I need to. I'm not sure where we go from here. It just depends on who we bring in. In terms of exits, yeah, my big exit that I wanted out the door was Paul Pogba, and I'm so glad to see the back of him. I never want to hear that name again in my life.
You'll play him in the Champions League, and he'll score a worldie.
He's back
Oh,
home.
sorry.
No,
He'll play
Cyrus, we won't.
Champions League.
I can guarantee you we
He'll play
won't.
Champions League. My bad. I completely forgot. He's gone
Guys-
to another gargantuan club.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's Italy, guys.
It's Italy. It's where Lukaku looked like a world beater. But anyway, I do also think that we just need to clear a little bit of the centre back bulk, because we are going to get Lisandro Martinez through the door, and that leaves way too many centre backs. We've got Varane, we've got Maguire, we've got Lindelof, we've got Martinez, and that's enough. So from there, I think no, I'm saying that's enough. So Bailly, Phil Jones need to go. And I think Alex Telles can pack his bags as well, because
Oh yeah, of course.
I don't think he has. I don't think there's any room for him. And if we get a right back, which apparently the manager is after, but I'm not sure he'll get right now, then Wan-Bissaka can pack his bags as well. Dalot will probably start the season as first choice, though I'm not sure he's very good, but he is better than Wan-Bissaka. It's not very difficult. I mean, any of us can be better than Wan-Bissaka.
We can't run 5Ks, Wahid. We can't run 5Ks.
Okay. Let's stop with the 5Ks talk, and whether Harry Kane deserves an award for puking on the side of the field. But that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Can I just talk about running
we'll be
quick?
back again in
no, we're not talking about running.
Okay.
Because once upon a time, Dean raced me on a 5K and he lost.
I
He thought
never lost.
he lost like a minute and a half. A
Wrap
minute
it
and a
up, Paul.
half.
Wrap it up.
I'm beating you at the marathon in October. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to bring you this show. We'll be back again as the season gets closer. We might even do weekly as we go along, or an emergency podcast if Cristiano Ronaldo does land up with Chelsea, so we can see Cyrus cry and Wahid and AB celebrate. But outside of that, have a great week. Goodbye, good night, and lesale kakahiso.